I got to work with Jishnu Guha, who's a close friend and collaborator, someone I'm a huge fan of as well. I think every time one of my artist friends or I go through something, the only silver lining is maybe there's a song that'll come out of this. Artists very often find themselves in a position where they go through something in their lives, and the way that they process it is not by sitting and talking to people so much. Hey, this is Mali, and I'm here to talk about my latest release, Ashes. So back in 2020, I was still working on my last album, Caution to the Wind. And while on one side of my life, everything seemed to be going really well with music and the album was coming to fruition, I was still dealing with a lot on my personal life. And I was on the verge of a breakup. And it was a breakup after a 5-year-long relationship. So there was a lot involved. There was a lot in the mix. It happened over a period of time. It was a process, really. And in that process, writing Ashes was my counsel. It was what I turned to. It was where I could talk about my feelings in a way that I didn't need to hear someone else's point of view. It was just like a Dear John of sorts. And I wrote the song over a few weeks during the breakup, especially during the time where we decided to not talk to each other, me and my ex. It was especially during that time that I really wanted to know how he was doing, and I was curious, and the curiosity was getting the better of me. I would type a message and then delete it, and it was, I guess we've all been there. And writing Ashes during that time was what helped me put my thoughts into perspective. Even if I didn't hear an answer, even if I didn't get a response, it felt like the song became my best friend at that time. I don't exactly remember a lot about the process of writing Ashes because I had so much brain fog that I can't remember what the process was or where exactly in my apartment I was sitting when I wrote it, or which part came together before the other. But I do remember, this one line, "Are you happier now than you were last year?" was a big one because it was something that I was asking not just myself or, in a one-sided way asking my ex. It was something that I was asking everybody at that time because it was a year, it was a dreadful year for everyone. It was the pandemic, and it was just like the resounding question that everybody was asking everyone else. And so it became almost a sign of the times in 2020 to ask people if they're doing better than they were earlier that year. And and so much of it was like I would walk around my apartment and like cross a reflective surface and look at myself and not be able to recognize myself. And I think that was the first time I ever felt something so surreal, like a complete disassociation with yourself. And it took me a couple of weeks to get out of that. And, even a year later, when I opened the song up, I made a demo of it at home. And that's a question I would ask myself every time I heard the song. Like, I'd ask myself, am I happier than I was last year? And I think that's something that struck a chord with a lot of people who wrote me messages about it as well. They're like, man, that question really stayed with me. So, yeah, I think that's one thing I remember having a strong thought behind in writing the song. And I also remember talking about rhyme and reason and like how a complicated rhythm is a friend of the rhyme, which is to say, like, artists, I think sometimes we find ourselves in complicated situations and our coping mechanism is to write about it. Artists very often find themselves in a position where they go through something in their lives, and the way that they process it is not by sitting and talking to people so much or like writing a journal or anything. It's writing music. It's expressing whatever that is, that angst, that experiences in their personal lives in their music. And I think every time one of my artist friends or I go through something, the only silver lining is maybe there's a song that'll come out of this. And so that line, a complicated rhythm is a friend of a rhyme, is really from that. So while demoing the song in the comfort of my home setup, I encountered a couple of challenges, and that was really how much of instrumentation the song even needed. I composed the song with just the guitar. It was just like a jing jang kind of a thing, and obviously it had to be more than that. I wasn't going to keep it just to get guitars and vocals. Um, and I was obviously exploring using drums and bass, which I did a lot of in my previous album. But just nothing seemed to fit. Like, none of it was sounding right for the song. It felt overproduced, it felt crowded, and it wasn't adding any value either. So I made a calculated choice to not have any bass guitar or drums. And no percussion either. There was absolutely nothing percussive. Well, the only percussive element is maybe like the acoustic guitar being strummed, almost muted. And that's what gives it that little bit of bounce. But besides that, it was just guitars, keys, and synths and vocals. And this is the thing with singers, like a lot of singers will jump at the opportunity to do harmony. And I've been very restrained with my need to put harmony on tracks before. Like I just calculate exactly where it's necessary and don't overload it with vocals. But this time, because the song had so much more space that, it really could hold that many vocal layers, and we really went ham on that. Now I had this demo, and I wanted to record the song, so I approached my friend Arya Nanji. She's an amazing producer. And we've been friends for years, but we never worked on something like this. She'd been talking about getting into production and doing more work in the space. And since Arya and I get along a lot musically, like we both listen to a lot of older music and a lot of easy listening and that sort of stuff, she was a very obvious choice to produce this song. And we'd spent days where we just sit together, talk, play each other references of what the song should sound like. And we came up with a little plan. And we were going to do just guitars, keys, vocals, and maybe a couple of cymbal swells. And so we had to book the studio to do this. And I think in a span of 24 hours across maybe an 8 to 10 hour studio session, we managed to record everything. And that's something I've never achieved with any of my previous songs. It's usually taken months, sometimes even a year or more, to make a song. And this one came together in a week. Like Sunday night, we recorded piano. Monday, we recorded guitar, cymbals, vocals. And by Tuesday, we had the first mix. And it's never happened that quickly. I'm a big fan of harnessing momentum when it comes to making a song. Like once that momentum is lost, it's relatively hard to get it back and continue working on a song with the same vigor. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this song kind of came together from start to finish, production-wise, within a week. And I got to work with Jishnu Guha, who's a close friend and collaborator, someone I'm a huge fan of as well. We've written together before. I've sung on a couple of his songs. I played for his band as well. And he's even directed one of my music videos before. So he's a close friend and collaborator on many levels. So Jishnu came on board to play guitars. My drummer JJ Jahangir, he played cymbals. And I played the keys and synths. Hi, this is Mali, and you're watching me on Radio City Freedom. Radio City!